Looking for a fun, different new shirt? Something related to the things you like? Climbing in the outdoors, perhaps philosophy? Visit our new store, theDIHEDRAL Goods, on Etsy, and you'll find all that and much more.
I'm on! Roll! Hello everyone, this is Carrot, welcoming you to another episode of the theDIHEDRAL podcast. Joining us today is one of the most inspiring people within the climbing community at large. I call her an artist of life, a person who always seems to have the ability to make the most out of her experience and never fails to make those around her smile. Her YouTube channel, Court Climbs, is a gift to the climbing world. You can also listen to her on the ever-engaging Craig Chat Climbing podcast. With an infectious personality and a knack for getting others to believe the world is a good place, we are so happy to welcome today Courtney Schatz. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That is so kind. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I mean, you kind of bring it upon yourself. And so before we get, I guess, too far ahead of ourselves, I noticed that you go by Court and Courtney, and I didn't know if Court was reserved for friends or if like people who are just meeting you can like jump into the Court level, or how does that work?
Yeah, so funny story about that. When I was younger, I actually hated being called Court because my little sister, we had our recess area like outside, and her friends would be eating like corn at the lunch area, and they would be like corn, corn. So I hated being called Court when I was younger, but obviously as I've grown up, I've grown out of it. And now Court or Courtney is fine. I actually think it's really kind of endearing because until I started Court Climbs, pretty much only friends called me Court.
Okay.
And now it's kind of like a sign that that people know me from the channel. If they see me out and about, they'll just start calling me Court right away. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, that's nice.
the world knows you as Court. And just how do you feel about corn? Like not as a name, but as a food.
Oh, I love corn. Yeah, corn's great.
What's not to love? So yeah, I'll probably go back and forth. In my head I call you Court, but like on writing I usually like my notes are Courtney. So
Fair
we'll
enough.
see how it goes. Um
Well, hey,
but
you're carrot, right? Carrot and corn.
yeah,
There we
exactly. That's like vegetables like working together, making people healthy for sure. So I definitely want to talk about the YouTube channel. I want to talk about the podcast, but I thought before we got into any of those things that you do, we could talk about like who you are. And so, like I said in the intro, you've got this really magnetic personality. And of course, what you show to the public is obviously not how you're always going to be or how you're always going to feel, but it really is this like positive vibe and this great level of energy. And I wonder if you could take a second to just describe yourself. Is that how you are all the time, or is that just for us as viewers and followers?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I do think that like the vibe that I've gotten from others is that I'm perceived as a generally positive person. I would also like to think that, if I were to describe myself, that I would say that I'm a generally positive person. It's funny because I was actually just talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, yeah, like the area that positivity comes in is when you're having hard times. And I was like, I think it's hard for me to gauge how hard my life has been compared to like, anyone in the general population because we all have like our own baggage, our own stuff going on. And I just think that I've been very like blessed to honestly have a pretty nice life full of like a lot of nice things and nice people. So, um, yeah, I guess you could say that I'm positive, but I also just think that I've been really fortunate. And also my parents growing up, they kind of just raised me with my mom especially with the mindset of like if you just do one good thing for somebody else every day, like that you've won at life, even if you've just had like the crappiest day ever, like if you've made someone else's day better, um, you won that day. So I don't know. I think maybe that attributes to like kind of the more like the way that I'm seen as like positive, but I do really appreciate it. And I think that it's definitely something that is like an ongoing, you don't just wake up one day and you're like, oh, I'm positive now.
Yeah.
It's like something that you have to continuously practice, I guess. Would be my 2 cents on it.
I think that's great. So, I mean, there's obviously an influence from your parents, which is really nice. That advice from your mom is great. As you were saying that, I was like, man, I hope 1 million people listen to this show and get like this positive reaction from you, and that'll give you like a million days of not having to do
Oh
nice
my gosh,
things.
yeah, I could be the world's worst person from now on.
You'll have a couple of days off. So, yeah, we got the influence from your parents. Anything else? Like, do you have any particular role models or books or anything like that you were able to pull from?
Oh man. Um, I'm sure I definitely could think of a few people and books and things. I guess one thing that I attribute a lot of my like uh just the way that I perceive life is my dad was in the military
Mhm.
for when I was younger. He was in the military until I was about 12, I believe. And so I think just like from an early age growing up and moving around to a lot of different places
Yeah,
kind of just shaped my worldview of like, oh, the world's like so much bigger than this one little town that you've been in forever with all these people that are so similar. Like I just grew up all around a lot of different types of people. And then I also have four younger siblings, which I feel like growing up as like the oldest, you kind of at least I kind of held myself to like that role model
yeah,
standard. And I was never like the sibling that I don't know, I hear a lot of stories where like the oldest siblings are just like, oh, they like rule the house, right? And it's like the only
yeah.
thing that I ever wanted was I wanted to ride shotgun. That was the only thing that I cared
That's it.
about. I don't know
Get these little
why.
munchkins in the back, in the
Yeah,
front
yeah,
seat.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I look up to so many people in my life that actually, when you originally asked me to be on the podcast, I believe you phrased it as something like, yeah, let's just chat about your like life philosophy, which kind of made me laugh because I was thinking like, okay, what is my life philosophy? And actually recently, my husband and I, which like I look up to my husband so much, Jed is his name.
What a
But
great name.
yeah, Jedrick actually.
That's so
But
cool.
he he came up with like a creed. Like he was like, let's come up with like little mission statements for our
What?
life. Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So mine is uh people, 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 do what you want. You are the sum of your promises. So it's like
Pretty
three
good.
things, right? And they all kind of check each other and like don't allow the other parts to like get too out of balance. And so I don't know, you said like who inspires me? So many people. Like I think that you can talk to literally anyone, and even if maybe you don't respect their like life perspective, then like that's a lesson itself, like what you
Yeah,
can learn from them. Like, oh, that's not the way that I want my life to be. Or you look at someone that's like, I don't know, really good climber, a really good artist, or a really good runner. Like I'm just around a lot of like very talented people, and I really do take the saying like if you're the smartest or most talented person in a room, like you're probably in the wrong room. Like I take that really seriously because
awesome.
I like yeah, if that makes sense.
It's really awesome to hear something like that. People struggle, like all of us struggle with ego. It's almost liberating to walk in a room and be like, let me learn from these people. Like everybody has a story and everybody has something to teach me. That's just an awesome perspective to take. So I mean, in that sense, almost maybe not everybody, but a lot of people can be somebody worth looking up to if you just get to know them a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I kind of find like so we're going to talk about like YouTube and podcasting and stuff like it's somewhat hilarious to me. Like I'm just a girl. Like I'm literally just over here. The only thing that I've done is decide to document what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I find it really interesting. I found that, and I know we'll talk about YouTube probably a little bit later, but like I found it really interesting that now I look at other creators that have like these massive followings, and I'm like, it's not that I don't respect their followings and the hard work that they've put into it. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's just like, oh, I can see so much more clearly that you're just a person, just like we all are. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. You get that sense of talking to people on a podcast too. Like I've been able to I mean, you too, like we get to talk to people who are like role models to millions of people, and you get to talking to them, and you're talking about their living room backdrop or something like that.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just really, really nice. So, I mean, not every day can be a good day. Life happens and things like that. And so I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about how you cope on some of the down days, or what type of stressors you have, and then how you overcome, certain things like anxiety or
Yeah.
fear, things that we all face.
Yeah. So obviously this is just my take on it.
Hmm.
If any of the things that I say are helpful, then cool. I'm not trying to prescribe it as for everyone, but I do have this thing. I think that I struggle with anxiety in the sense that a lot of my life is like very people centric, and I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a people pleaser, but I just find a lot of my meaning in life um through connection with others. And so I can be a little bit anxious about social situations, not before or after, or not before or during, but after. Like I often will leave
Interesting.
places and think like, oh, I said something stupid, or I talk a lot, and that's something the older that I've gotten, like, the more that's not a bad thing inherently, but
Yeah.
I've always just felt like maybe I'm a bit overbearing. So that definitely is, like, one area that I struggle in, and then, like, some days I do just feel anxious, like, there's something I don't know, you just feel off, and I've created this thing called the skeleton checklist.
Hmm.
Um, and so the skeleton checklist, it came from, um one day I said to Jed, I said, I feel like a skeleton." He goes, "I don't know what you mean by that." He's so patient with me. And I said,
That's
like,
so
"I don't
funny.
know. I just feel I just feel like not right in my body." And I think maybe that's where skeleton came from, is like I just almost feel like dead, or not dead. Anyways, so that's where the skeleton checklist came from. And what it is it's essentially just everything that if your mom was a decent mom, she told you to do. So
Hmm.
it's you start with you drink a big glass of water, um, you clean something, you get some exercise, um, you listen to music is a big thing for me. Take a shower if you have the ability to. Like, sometimes if you just take a shower,
Yeah.
like, it kinda resets your day. And then I think the last one is, call or text a loved one and just, like, check in on their day, see how they're doing. Generally, sometimes, like, if you can distract yourself from what's going on with you and, like, oh, just take time to check in on someone else, like, that seems to be good. And then I say if you do all that and you're still feeling crappy, then at least you're hydrated and you've worked out and you've
Yeah.
talked to someone.
Reach out
Like,
to somebody.
it's not it's not a perfect science, obviously, and I say all this to say that, like, I've never been clinically diagnosed with, like, anxiety or depression or anything like
Yeah.
that. Um, so, like, obviously those are very real things that,
Hmm.
like, a simple little checklist is not going to fix, but
Right.
um it also can't hurt necessarily. Um but yeah, that's kind of my I found that when I've shared that online before, a lot of people have resonated with it.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that's good and bad. Good in the sense that, like, I'm glad that it's a helpful thing, and bad in the fact
It
that
is.
there's so many people feeling not great.
That's a good way to live. Oh, yes, see, you're very empathetic. That's so nice.
Oh,
Your list, it's as you're saying, maybe not everything in a direct way, but there's days when, maybe you're a climbing skeleton or you're just not doing what you think
yeah.
you do. That same list is pretty helpful. Like start with some water, step
Yeah.
back, talk
Dude,
to
a big
somebody
glass
else.
of water big glass of water can fix a lot of things.
That's a game changer for a bad day, without a doubt. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So you gave us your list. What was Jed's? Where you guys each came up with a motto, right?
Oh, oh, man. Here, wait. Oh, I didn't bring it with me. I'm at a friend's house right now.
Okay.
Um, Jed's is so drastically different from mine, which of course it would be, because Jed and I are completely opposite people, and that is why I love him. Um, his is okay, I'll just summarize his,
Okay.
although mine was so short and brief. His is very detailed, which is kind of his personality in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Just a very detailed, logistical person. His was all around progress
Okay.
and basically like always learning something and never becoming stagnant,
Awesome.
um which is great. It's just very interesting to me because I feel like I need to be reminded that like the world just like keep reminding myself, oh, the world's just like a good place. Like, don't forget that it's good. And like I think he needs to be reminded, like, keep working to make the world better. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like they're both the same thing, but they're different. So
Yeah. That's great. That's all. I really like that way you guys compliment each other. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like what your list lacks, his last picks up on it. That's
No,
really
it's
awesome.
cool.
Have you guys published these anywhere?
No, I mean, I think I've maybe put mine on Instagram somewhere, but
Okay.
Jed's not once again opposites, but he's not a social media guy.
All right.
He posts his lifting PRs like once every 6 months on Facebook.
Hey, I know that's awesome. That's great. So, yeah, I'd love to talk about the YouTube channel. It's if you're not watching Courtney's YouTube channel, you should really subscribe. It's so funny and it's so uplifting and it's really fitting to the personality that you're describing right now. So I was wondering if you, I don't know, can give us like the elevator pitch of your YouTube channel, just a quick description of how you, the curator of that channel, would describe it.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm glad you're asking me this question now and not like just a little bit ago because I've done a lot of deep thinking about this. Um, Court Climbs is not a climbing channel, and that was the big thing that I had to figure out in making content. I'll give you something short that you can use.
Yeah,
Court Climbs is a channel about the hype of climbing.
I love that.
It's about it's what can I do to keep people stoked about climbing?
Yeah,
Um, a lot of that comes through in what I'm currently stoked about in climbing. And it's kind of I mean, there's so much that goes into trying to like curate a feed within the spectrum of climbing. And it's definitely been, I've been doing it for 3 years now, so I definitely think that I've found what I like making and what I don't like making, as well as like what my audience is interested in and not interested in. And ideally, like that sector, that's a Venn diagram where in the middle you make the stuff in the middle.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if how do you feel as a viewer, I guess. I would love to hear
You're
your
the way,
thoughts.
no, honestly, the way that you described it is perfect. And I talk about that with the dihedral too. I'm just like, look, there's people who send hard projects all the time, and that's not what we're going to do. And then there's people who
Right.
just it's kind of trying to find a lane that's got a little elbow room in it. And I think you found that lane and you do it really kind of like brilliantly and without a doubt very entertainingly. Is that a descriptive word?
It's a word now.
I'm entertained when I watch it for sure. It's lighthearted, it's uplifting. It just shows like what it's like to be hanging out with your friends doing what we do. It's cool. It captures the stuff that's not necessarily on the wall. Not to say that you're not on the wall some of the times or in the gym some of the times or like doing some of these really entertaining exploits like climbing every V3 or something
Yeah.
like that or looking at different gyms. But yeah, it's vastly entertaining because it's not like other things. I think that's what I get out of it most.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Something I've had to learn about YouTube, like YouTube, the platform, if you want to find like easy success on that, the best way is to just copy what other people have had success with and kind of
Yeah.
make it your own. And that's not to say, I mean, I think in my head, I love to think that I'm so different from other creators. I'm sure that I'm a lot more similar to many creators. And I respect so many creators on the platform. That's not what I'm trying to say either. But if I had to like pinpoint it, it's like, why would I just create content that's already been made when I could like provide something that's not being shown?
Yeah.
And I know that like a lot of the outdoor vlogs, like it's not lost to me that like not everyone enjoys outdoor vlog content, but there are some people that do, and there's not enough of it being made. Like just
Yeah.
simply put, there is not a lot of content like about outdoor climbing being made where it's like in a casual atmosphere. And if it is, it very much is like super casual, super amateur. There's not really like any sort of schedule or rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
Um, And if it is being produced frequently, it seems to be attached to like a brand or a sponsor, which is
Right.
cool. But then it like loses that little bit of like
There's
whatever it
more.
is, that
Yeah.
little bit of magic.
It's more like a commercial than it is like life. And I think, yeah, that's another way. Like you're showing the life of a climber, or the life of somebody who finds climbing endearing. It's great. What was your motivation to start it?
So this is super cliche, but I started it during the pandemic.
That's awesome.
Um I so I've grown up my entire life making things. I've always loved video production. I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel, like ever since I was in like high school and I knew YouTube existed. I found a lot of comfort in YouTube growing up. I lived in a town. I said that my dad was in the military earlier, and that's true until I was about 12. And then from age 12 to 18, I grew up in Montana. I love Montana. It's a beautiful state. There are a lot of beautiful, lovely, amazing people there. But there's a lot of sameness. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
diversity. And if you don't fit into those categories of sameness, it can be hard. And YouTube was a space where I kind of learn relearned essentially like, oh yeah, the world has so much more than just what is being presented to you in Roundup, Montana.
Yeah.
Um,
What's it called? Roundup, Montana?
Roundup, that is a
Oh,
real town.
all right.
Um, and so I guess my motivation for making it is like, and this still holds true to this day, like I just want the videos that I make to make the people watching them feel like they belong, like someone wants them there in the climbing community, um, and just like excited about life. Like I actually wrote down in my list of like video ideas at the top, I have a thing. I wrote it a while back, so I'm probably paraphrasing, but it's like, okay, what do I want viewers to feel after they watch this video? And I think some of us like they can be good at climbing or like fit into the climbing community. Like the world's a good place. Like yeah, the world's a bad place. I get that. Like there's a lot of bad stuff, but like I don't know, if you focus on that, like you're gonna find the bad stuff. Like you got to keep looking
Yeah.
for the good. I think I said in like one of the videos that I made about it was like on Thanksgiving and I was talking about how um like I was just really bummed out that we weren't going climbing for Thanksgiving that year.
Yeah.
And I was like talking about how I needed to be grateful that I got to even go climbing
That's
on
so
the
cool.
previous Thanksgiving. And I was
Yeah.
talking about how like gratitude is just a skill that you have to keep, just like the positivity thing, like practicing over and over and over again. Um, and I don't know, I just want viewers to leave my videos feeling good and feeling like they want to like get out there and do something cool. Whatever that is, like whatever that means to them. It doesn't even have to be climbing, but like obviously, I hope that someone that's never climbed too might find some like inspiration in going climbing as well. I think that the most meaningful like interactions that I've had with folks is there's this one time we were at the Red River Gorge and there was this group of people camping near us and I hear them talking, blah, blah. We're kind of hanging out. And the next morning they get up and I hear them saying that they're going out to a chocolate factory, which is a crag there. And I'm
Cool.
like, oh, cool. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I like chocolate factory, cool crag. Like, hope they have fun. And then one of them turns and looks at me and goes, oh my gosh, like, we watched your video and that's the reason we're camping here and that's the
What?
reason yeah, and that's the reason we're going to chocolate factory and we're gonna go like check out this food place that you recommend. And I was like they were all
That's so
stoked
cool.
to meet me. And once again I was kind of just like I felt like I should be getting their autograph. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, like you're here.
Yeah.
And they were from Florida.
That's
Like they
amazing.
came to the Red because of something that like I was just like astounded. It was the coolest thing ever.
Oh
And
yeah,
like
that's the
that's
coolest.
yeah, it was so cool. So yeah, I guess like I think your original question was like what motivated you to make a YouTube channel. It's like I think it was part of just like partly the creative aspect of everything and then partly like the humanistic aspect of like I just really want to help people.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a big reason why I make some of the guide content too, because like I mean, it's no secret that like making a guide to climbing is maybe not the most like riveting creative endeavor, but
Right.
I do think it's helpful and needed.
Oh, 100%. Going outside, especially if you're a gym climber, it's very intimidating. Like it's a different world. The rocks aren't the same color. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not different colors for different. It's hard. And so if you have somebody, not only somebody, but somebody that others can relate to, letting people know
Hmm.
it's okay. Like you're going to be all right. Here's how you do it. I think that's really special, and I hope you keep doing it, even though it might not be the most riveting content for those like your friends in
Yeah.
Florida. Well, new friends in Florida. It's awesome. It changes their lives, I'm sure.
100%. I think too, one advantage that I had starting court climbs, and some people may like, I'm sure some people scoff at this, but that's fine. Um, really started getting into outdoor climbing when I lived in Ohio. I currently live in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, but I think that living in Ohio and starting court climbs was one of the best things that could have possibly happened because it set the bar, and I mean this so respectfully, Ohio, it set the bar so low. The bar
Yeah,
was
there's not a lot
so
of climbing.
low. And it was just like, "All right, we go out, we have fun. We don't need to climb things that are crazy. Like, we can barely climb 5'8", 5'9" right now." Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I really valued the fact that, like, it got me outdoors, in any space, in any weather.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Michigan, which is just north of Ohio. And so again,
Mhm.
respectfully, Ohio, typically that was just the state we drove through to go
On the
to.
way to the red or the new.
Yeah, so yeah, just some of the, exactly. I feel like anytime somebody mentions Ohio, we just change the name to respectfully Ohio. I feel like that's a fair thing to do.
I was gonna
Oh,
say, I'm surprised you're even talking to me being from Michigan, because
yeah, you know,
I'm not originally from Ohio, but man, when I moved there, it seems
there's
like the sports feud between Michigan and Ohio is
yeah, there's an
pretty
intense
intense.
disdain. Yeah, yeah. I'm beyond that. Like I'm just like, especially if you're a cool person, you could like Ohio State or whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I actually Grand Ledge was like
Grand
pretty
Legends,
fun
sweet.
for what it was.
Yeah.
And then like we did go up to the UP, and we went to some of the ice caves up there one year, and that was cool. So yeah, I like Ann Arbor is like one of my
Awesome.
favorite places in Michigan too. So yeah. Big props
Yeah.
for shout out Michigan.
Shout out to Michigan. I mean, respectfully to Ohio, of course. Of course. So
One of my best friends here like hates Ohio, and I'm just like, you're wrong. Like you're wrong.
yeah,
I
I
love
mean,
Ohio.
exactly, respectfully. Um, One thing I really like about your videos is the production. I'm sure it takes a lot of your time to do that the way that you do it. It's very good. Um, you don't overdo it by adding too many just quirky things along the way, but there's certain things that you do that are just the right amount of fun. Your cuts are really good. The music, it's just great. So how much time would you say on average do you put in like production and post to get it up and running for YouTube?
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely depends on what type of content I'm making. For the like the I call it like classic court climbs vlog styles. I usually have about 3 to 4 hours of just like raw footage, and then I try to cut that down between like to 10 to 15 minutes. I usually edit videos for like a week or two, depending on how busy I am, and I would probably say on the low end, I'd put like 10 to 15 hours into
Yeah.
something, but on the high end, it's much higher. I did actually keep track for when I did the video about Horseshoe Hell.
Mhm.
And that was definitely my most complicated edit. I learned a lot. I think that it can be easy to look back on previous work and think that it's just so terrible, but I think it's really dangerous to do that because
Yeah.
unless you, like, have that experience, you're never gonna get better.
True.
So yeah, to answer your question simply, I mean, I put a lot of time and
Yeah.
energy into it. I do know that I could probably put less if I change the type of content that I made or, like, the way that I approach it all. Even just something as simple as the music, I'm a really diehard believer in, like, I enjoy the process of finding the music. I don't subscribe to any music licensing services.
Yeah.
I am simply on SoundCloud, um, in their copyright free section, like every day, just going through on my drives or while I'm doing the
Yeah.
dishes,
That's
trying to find
cool.
music. But yeah, I put a lot of time into it, and um, I think that just because something isn't the most efficient does not mean that it shouldn't be done.
That's great.
So that's kind of my philosophy on it. I do wish that I had more time to edit. This
Yeah.
out of the whole process of YouTube, I filming's fine. Every like the whole planning process is fine. The part that I love is editing.
Really, man,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah, and that is, I feel
It's a
like you don't
passion.
hear that too often.
No, you really don't. Good for you. We need people like you in the world. That's so great.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's this, I don't know, it's the video that I really like a lot. I don't know about the most, but
I'm
it's
so
it's so
excited to hear
good.
this.
It's the legend of the breakfast burrito.
Yes,
It's
yes.
so good. Everything
That's
about it is great. Like the
Thank
story, the
you.
background, it's awesome. It's hilarious. I was wondering if you can at least just share with us the story that you shared with. I don't want to give away the ending or anything like that, but could you just tell us the story in your own words about the legend?
Yeah, the story of breakfast burrito. Okay. So, um, and I'll tell you the story really briefly, but just the inspiration there. I love when something that I've heard just organically can be turned into a video. Like some of my favorite things I've ever made, it's like a friend being like, "Oh, I wonder if we could like climb every boulder in the gym. How long would that take?" Like I love stuff like that.
Video, I love that too.
Because you don't have to search for the story in something like that. The
Yeah,
story's already there. You're just documenting it.
it's
So, The
cool.
Legend of Breakfast Burrito. Um, this is how I was told it. There was a dude, he's at the red. He's climbing up this route called Breakfast Burrito. It's a 510C/D, depending on who you ask. Um, and he climbs up and he gets like two or three bolts before the anchors, and he realizes he's out of quick draws. And so instead of just like most normal people would do, oh, like let's lower back down and reevaluate, get more quick draws, figure this out. He just decides to keep climbing all the way up, like skipping two or three bolts to get to the anchors. And his plan was to hold on to the chains with one hand, untie his figure eight, thread the rope through the chains, and then retie. Like I said, this is how I've been told the story. I did have
Yeah.
a little bit of like what is it? I guess maybe I was told that I was telling the story wrong. But anyways, the dude drops the rope. He tries to untie, drops the rope.
No.
Um and so now he's just up there hanging on. And there
So
was
bad.
a pro climber that just so happened to be at the same crag, that came over and like basically, sprinted up this route and helped him out and got him back down to the ground safely. Um, the variations on the story are many, but the important part is that he was okay.
That's important. Yeah.
And the lesson to be learned is double check how many quick draws you have before you go up a route.
At the very least. And also like climb back down or be lowered. Like that's
Right,
crazy.
right. Okay, the whole intrigue and the whole reason that the video was made is because I was so interested, like, okay, if I'm this dude and I'm climbing up this route, like maybe I'm just thinking to myself, like, ah, this is super chill route. Like, I
Yeah.
can just, it's okay. Listen, we've all skipped clips, we've all done things like this.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the extent, but we've all done things that would be deemed as maybe potentially more dangerous than we should in climbing. Should we do it? No. We all have done it.
We've done it.
So I'm just trying to like get in this dude's headspace. So that's why that's why I was like, I feel like I could make a whole thing about this. Like I'm just so curious. So I went to the gym and as you were saying, like I won't spoil the whole rest of the video, but it's definitely my favorite thing I've ever made. And what I will say is that video from the ideation process all the way until I finished it, actually took me 6 months to complete,
Oh, wow.
just because there was a period in the middle where I moved. I moved from Ohio to Pittsburgh, and the
Okay.
red was now like 7 hours away. Um,
Right.
so, but man, what just like a great premise to start a
It's
video
awesome.
from.
It's
You know
so
what I
good.
mean?
No, no,
Yeah, so
it's
good.
awesome. You guys definitely, you have to watch it. It's really good.
I
So
often I often joke that like I will never make like I often say to one of my best friends, she's a creative too. I'm like, if I can ever make anything that I feel like is better than breakfast burrito, I will
oh
be
yeah,
so happy.
I'm gonna, not only me, like anybody listening, but definitely me. If I hear of some legend and I'm like, I think somebody should repeat this, I'm gonna send it to you. Like,
Do
please
it.
hit Courtney up, let her know. She's got some content coming.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk a little bit about your podcast. Same types of questions like what is your podcast like? What was the motivation behind it? And like ultimately, what are your goals with the podcast?
Yeah. So the podcast started just because my friend Anna that I originally started the podcast with, best friend, love of my life. She's my ride or die. I at the time was not super good friends with her and I just like wanted to talk to her more
That's so
and
nice.
also talk about just like the climbing community in Ohio. Because much like the motivation for starting the YouTube channel, I also just wanted to like highlight Ohio climbing. Like, you know, we're still like Ohio climbers, Michigan climbers, we still have a community, we still exist, we're still very excited.
Yeah, totally.
I
Right.
would argue probably even more excited than people that have eh, but like just as excited as
I
people that have
agree.
access.
100%.
Yeah, anyways. So it kind of just started as like an opportunity to talk to a friend and then her schedule kind of got different than mine and we like kind of fell off. I think there was like a long period of time between a lot of the episodes, but
Mm,
then um my motivation with it has changed so much. Like I used to think it was something that I really wanted to grow and like really integrate it into court climbs and like make it now the podcast is literally like I have no strategy. I don't care what happens with it as far as like the quote unquote success. Like the
yeah.
success of the podcast to me is just like doing it. I also and I mentioned this briefly on the podcast, but like I also am going from talking to like guests that I don't know personally and like might have seen online and admire in that way back to just talking to only people that I know in my own community. And really the
Yeah.
only reason for that is just I mean that's kind of what it started as and as someone that runs a podcast you might kind of relate. It can be a little bit oh what's the right word? It can just be like an interesting experience not knowing the person and their character personally.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that like I've had issues, but like I just want to make sure if I'm like giving someone a platform, albeit like at this point a very small one, to like talk and share their story, that is like someone that I would um think highly of their character and like be friends with
Right.
in real life. And so that's really kind of the reason for the shift back to just like talking to friends. And also it's just
Yeah.
so much easier. It's just
Yeah.
like, hey, do you wanna like just chat about
Boom. Done.
yeah, done. Also, as much as I love editing for my YouTube channel, I hate editing my
Audio.
podcasts.
Yeah.
Because it's all the tedious, unfun parts of editing. It's not like the problem solving and like the creative. It's just
Yeah.
like, okay, let's cut out ums and likes and
Right.
the part where Courtney said one thing, rambled about that thing, and then close it off. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I just don't enjoy the editing. And I told Jed, I was like, if I'm not enjoying this and I'm
Yeah.
voluntarily doing it,
Right.
why?
Great.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
You find a way to enjoy it.
yeah.
You mentioned something. There's a difference between the way that you and I approach a podcast. And I like the way you do it. The way that I do it is I annoy myself sometimes. And so I was wondering if maybe you could help me out. And so I even
Okay.
heard you in your podcast say, like, look, we're just getting back to rambling. Like, we're going to hit the gas on this. Like, who cares about the script? And this is where I differ. Usually for me, it's just like, here's the script, stick to the script. Like, here's the time, like, get through it. This is what we got to do. And it's not good. Like, I'm not saying it's like I'm proud of this. I had a guest on one time and they were starting to open up about something that wasn't like on the docket for me to talk about, and it was like a personal thing and it was emotional, and I didn't know how to handle it at all. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Embarrassingly, I think I said something like, okay, cool. And I'm just like, what's
Oh my
wrong with you?
gosh. That is
So,
so relatable.
so stupid though. You know what I mean? So like you with this person, I think who can almost like naturally just be more like jazz, or it's just you kind of spin along the way, and me who's just like, pretty technical. I kind of came up with a small script for us where you just be you, and I'll be the person who goes off script. And I just want to hear how you would react to it if, let's say, it's a situation where you knew you wanted to try to talk about a couple other things, time was running out. For me, I'm just like, get to the other thing. So I have a
Yeah.
line for you, and then I'm going to follow up with a line that I wrote, and then
Okay.
we'll just see what your line is in response to mine. So this will be your line. It's generic. It's just your line is, why do you think climbing is important? So if you say that, I'll repeat again. This isn't the exact thing that happened to me, but it was something like this, only more serious. So okay,
Okay.
you're just, why do you think climbing is important? And then I'll go from there.
Gotcha. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit more about why you think climbing is so important?
So climbing is important, but ever since I lost my turtle, I can't go to the crag because I know if I see another crag turtle, it will bring back memories of Shelly.
Yeah. So I'm first of all, I'm so sorry about Shelly. That sounds horrible. You know, losing a pet's always horrible. Um, but can you tell me a little bit about Shelly? I would love to hear like what they were like.
That's that's so thoughtful. That's
Yeah.
empathetic. Maybe that's what I'm lacking. I feel like I'm empathetic, but for you, usually, let's just talk about Shelly. I don't care if there's six questions. So
Right. Um, okay, this is so interesting. I and can I just say, I think it is so I think that it is so awesome of you to try to like better your skills by this little like role play technique. That was really cool. Um, I think I think maybe my best piece of advice to you would be like don't think of it as a podcast so much as just like what would you say if a friend told you that their turtle died? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like what
especially a
would you
Craig turtle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I mean, obviously we're talking about Craig turtle and that's like kind of obviously a silly thing and
Yeah,
but I think if it's more serious, like, I mean, I definitely am not a professional at this all. I'm just like a human trying to like talk to another human. But um, I definitely have had guests in the past where they've opened up and like shared vulnerable things, and it is really hard to not just say like, cool. Um,
yeah,
I think that the best thing that you can do, um, people tend to come to me for advice. I'm not too sure why. Like I take it as an honor, really appreciate it. But I think the
yeah,
best thing you can do is like first like thank the person for
yeah.
like opening up and sharing that cuz like they didn't have to do that.
Right.
And then secondly give them like an invitation to continue sharing, and if
Yeah,
they kind of don't want to, then you can move on.
I like that.
And then, like, with a podcast, it's really easy. Something that I like to do at the start of my podcast is I always like to say, and this is more for like guests that I didn't know,
Hmm.
hey, just so you know, anything that you say, anything that you share, we can always edit it out. So like if you overshare, if I don't know, if you say a
Oh,
word
that's
weird
nice.
and you don't want it, I kind of just like set that expectation beforehand. And I feel like that kind of maybe potentially makes people feel more comfortable. But yeah, I guess that would be my best advice, but I totally understand the whole like, I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it. I like the way you leaned into it though. I mean, your advice corresponds with what you did. Like, tell me about Shelley. Like, that's an easy question. Like, this person clearly wanted to talk about Shelley, or maybe they wouldn't have brought it up.
Yeah,
That's good.
I also find with like death specifically, um, a lot of the times, well, like, so I was part of a team that ran across the country for like a raise money for a cancer charity. And one of the best pieces of advice that was given to me, I don't even know who gave this piece of advice to me, was that if someone has had like a death in their family and they're bringing it up, like you're right, you just said, like they often want to like talk about the person, not
Yeah,
so much as like the loss of the person.
right.
Um, so like yeah, and whether or not that's true, I don't know, but I've had success in the past with it, or at least I haven't been yelled at. So
Yeah, that's a good like benchmark to shoot for. That's awesome.
it's like, okay, they're not
Um,
yelling at me about it. So
I did something at least not terrible. I thought we could spend a few minutes before we're out of time, collaborating on something that
okay,
hopefully you'll be able to help me out. If you're like, no, that's stupid, and I'm not doing that, feel free to just be like, hang up. It's like,
okay,
it's fine. Um, so I was thinking it would be cool just for a couple minutes to come up with our own idea for a place, like a sandwich shop. So, Miguel's is a super popular place and it's got all these things. It's iconic and there's t-shirts.
oh
And I was
man,
thinking we could find like a climbing destination. It can be Ohio, it can be anywhere.
okay,
I think we should do, instead of pizza, we should do sandwiches. I think we need a name, a location, and at least a couple of things on the menu, and
yeah.
then names, whether we name them after climbers or puns or whatever. So let's do this. Let's come up with a location, come up with a name. We'll come up with a few menu items. What do you think?
Okay. Well, as far as location, I'm immediately thinking, I had so much fun climbing in Majorca. Like it was,
All
oh,
right,
that was just so fun. So that would be like my place. But
let's do it.
I don't know if you've been there.
I haven't been there, but that's a great reason for me to like learn about what kind of sandwiches we're gonna have there.
Okay, cool. So we're
Uh,
going to Majorca.
All right,
Um, on oh man, on one of my podcast episodes previously, we had came up with a good name. I can't remember what it was though.
all
It was
right.
like, I don't know, do you have any ideas about names?
So I don't know. Let's like pocket that for a second and like come up with like what the place is going to look like. Immediately when you said Majorca, forget campground in the background. Let's like rent paddle boards and sell like fresh sandwiches on really good bread.
The paddle boards could be like the tables, like the
Perfect.
tabletops. That
That's
would be sick.
like a bar, like, but a paddle board. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
happening. All right.
Um, I also think that so when I was in Majorca, they had this ridiculous like American themed restaurant and it was called, sorry, this is back on the name, but like it was called Tex-Mex Dakota Bar and Grill, and it had, like, a picture it can I just point out that it was insensitive? I'm not it was,
Yeah,
like, a
yeah.
picture of it was Tex-Mex Dakota Bar and Grill, and then it had, like, a picture of a Native American person in a headdress, um, and I just think that our restaurant should be, like, the most just, like surfer bro, just like
Yeah.
super cliche climbing. Like we could have like climbing gear hanging from
Oh, for sure.
the ceiling. Have you been to Peabody's? Like I kind of
No.
envision Peabody's ice climbing. It just has like old like climbing gear everywhere. So I kind of envision like surfer bro meets like old climbing gear. Like there's like the walls could have like cracks with like trad gear in
Oh,
them,
that's
like that
that's
type of a
cool.
thing. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really
yeah.
good. Like you could like even places to hang your jacket could be like
Yeah.
throw it on a piece of gear or something like that hanging out of a crack. I like that. That's smart. This is a good
My
restaurant.
aesthetic is 100% like a mix of like old versus new, like and just putting them together.
like
So
everything you're
like
saying is like I feel like we need a mural of like Chris Sharma. Um, like he's got that old school feel to a certain
and
degree,
he
but it's
goes to
also,
Majorca or like he
yeah,
lives in it,
that's
right?
like his spot. So like we could have
Yeah.
this mural, but I feel like we need to embellish everything. Like give him some board shorts and like maybe blonde hair, like give him that like surfer mentality.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so
As far
yeah,
as
go
the
ahead.
menu, so I have like big feelings on sandwiches.
Me too. Like it's basically my life. I
Okay.
don't have a shop. I don't have any affiliation with anybody, but I sometimes just dream of sandwiches. So this is the one that I've been going to. I feel like it's got to be on our
Okay.
menu. Unless you hate any of these ingredients, feel free to.
Well, I
Um,
mean, we're gonna make sandwiches for more than me. So like,
that's true.
yeah.
That's true. But mostly for like you. Like I mean, if you don't approve it, then it's not on me. You're the guest.
Okay.
So
All right.
so
Well,
here's
give me the order then.
I'm gonna call this just the Sharma.
Okay.
Sourdough bread. Like we gotta have good bread, right? We're not just gonna
Yeah.
come with garbage. We gotta have there's a bakery down the street that's making our bread for
Yeah,
sure. So
obviously.
let's get sourdough bread. It's gonna be a grilled cheese with brie, and then fig, like jam, or
Okay.
even fresh figs. Once we're done grilling it, and then we're gonna put a little bit of arugula on there. I know arugula can be controversial. I'm
No,
pro,
arugula is so good,
I'm pro for sure. And then to top
bro.
it all off, thinly sliced pears. So brie, pears, fig, arugula, sourdough. That's the sharma.
Listen, I don't think that this needs to be like a fictional thing in Majorca that happens. I think this is like a thing we like. I want to make this right now. That sounds really good. I would eat the
Look, this
shawarma
is
for
even a
sure.
it's not even a podcast anymore. This is a call for investors. Like we have an idea. All right, let's
100%.
hear your thunder.
Okay, so mine is called the Solomon. It's named after this like fictional crag troll that my friend and I have made up.
I love it.
A whole nother story there, but it's called the Solomon, and it's just my favorite sandwich. So it's um fresh mozzarella, thinly sliced prosciutto,
Ooh,
arugula, uh
perfect.
a lot of tomatoes, but they're all like thinly sliced for whatever reason. I don't know. I want them thinly sliced, but I want a lot of them.
I like it.
And
So they're
then
thinly sliced, but stacked back up to
yeah,
normal height.
and then yeah, yeah, and then balsamic, a little bit of balsamic on
Ooh,
there, and a
yes.
little bit of mayo.
Yeah, that's
Like
awesome.
so good. Yeah, I am really excited. I so Jimmy John's for a while um was making pretty much this exact sandwich and without the prosciutto, or maybe they had it, but I ate it like every
The,
single day while they had it. It was
the
limited
bread is so
edition.
good.
Come
Yeah.
on, Jimmy John's,
I
bring it
love that place.
back.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah,
We'll bring it back. Don't bring it back. It's ours now.
it's ours now.
All
And the
right.
bread, obviously, yeah,
Got it.
like bread that has some crisp to it, you know?
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, let's do one more. This one I haven't had before. It's just like trying to think of something on the spot, but I'm thinking we got to do something like throwback to the old school where it's just like trash on bread. Like this is a climber sandwich. It's just like here's some food to get the sends. We can maybe even call it the sandwich or something like that. So
Yes. Just like stupid over the top.
yeah, so I feel like it's going to start off with peanut butter. I want to kind of go sourdough again, but I don't want to overdo sourdough. So I'm going to
And
go with like
sourdough with peanut butter, not the
no,
vibe.
no. I think we're gonna have to go with like one of those nutty grain breads that's just like got extra stuff in the bread. So one of those nutty grain breads, it's just like a ton of peanut butter, maybe like two full apples sliced into that thing. Um, I'm trying to think. Oh, grilled, of course. It's got to be grilled. So like butter on there to get a little like fat. That'll keep us going. Maybe some Spanish style chocolate, like that could be good, and then a little bit of salt just
Okay.
for the hell of it. Like a ton of apple peanut butter. I feel like that's filling, and I also feel like old school climbers from the 60s could afford something like that. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's good, and I think that a lot of sandwich places, I'm just now realizing this. I think a lot of sandwich places don't like capitalize on like the sweet sandwiches.
That's true.
Like if you go anywhere, I've never seen like them have like a peanut butter. They
And
always say that
salted.
peanut butter is for kids. It's like, no, it's
It's
not.
definitely not.
No,
Peanut
I
butter
think
for
that that's
everybody.
smart. I
All
think
right.
that's smart. I also think, okay, so this is my like marketing take on things that are immediately successful. So we need to have like the sandwiches need to be giant, like compared
Giant.
to
I
the
agree.
average sandwich, because people will literally go to a restaurant just if something's bigger or
Yeah.
something smaller or like a different color than it normally is, you
Especially
know?
climbers. We got to stand
Yeah.
out for sure.
Yeah. I also want a logo that is as horrendous as the Miguel's Pizza logo.
It has to be. We got
Like,
to market some shirts and things like that for
yeah,
sure.
and it's gonna be terrible, but it's people are gonna wear it
Yeah.
everywhere.
It's a mark of pride. That's how bad it is.
Oh man, it is so I went to school as like a graphic design undergrad, and I remember the first time I saw the Miguel's Pizza logo and I was just like, what is this? But like, I mean, it works. It works.
It,
So
it works. We're stealing the idea for sure. We'll make
Yeah.
it our own.
Another way to
All right.
elevate a space super easily is to just add like a light that has like a colored LED function and just be like, I'm feeling green today. Change the light. So that's happening.
People love that. It's easy, it's cheap. I'm for that. We got LED lights, we got paddleboard bar tops, we got a little bit of menu items, we got a giant painting of surfer Chris Sharma, we got
Yeah.
hooks with like trad gear. All right, we got one more sandwich. What do you got for us?
Oh, what do I have? I I want just like a classic, just like turkey. It's turkey, mayo, maybe like a honey mustard or mustard.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
it has some spinach on it. It has some red onions on it. Some extra sharp cheddar cheese. Like
Yeah.
it's just like the classic. I don't know what the name would be. I'm trying to think of like the most um, maybe it could be called Bruise Brothers because, like, I know it's, in Majorca, but how funny would it be to have this, like, these 2 American
I love
climbers
it.
make this crag or make this sandwich that's just, like, the most basic crag ever
I
at the
agree.
Red.
No, this is perfect. I feel like it's something we can keep working on. We'll keep adding to the menu as time goes on. And when an
Right.
investor reaches out, I'll let you know. I'll be like, Courtney, like, I hope you're ready. We're
100%.
opening. That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for hanging out with us today. This was a blast. It always goes by so fast.
I know.
But before we go, before we wrap things up, I just wanted to see if there's anything that you wanted to plug or promote or put a spotlight on or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I think you really like covered it. I would just like if people want to check out Court Climbs on YouTube, that would be awesome. I do have some like upcoming videos. If you live in like the Pittsburgh area, I'm planning on making some like climbing guides for around Pittsburgh, and I plan on continuing the series that I've been doing on the New River Gorge, just trying to like show people different crags there. But yeah, this has been really fun. And I really appreciate you having me on.
That's awesome, Courtney. We'll have to get together again soon sometime. We got to finish up the rest of our menu.
Yep, and get a name. We didn't even get a name.
Yeah, we got work to do. Next time we're coming prepared.
If you enjoy listening to adventure stories, then you should visit theDIHEDRAL.com. You will find stories from other members of the community and read about climbing, life, and the outdoors. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's connect and climb on!
Climb on!